All right, welcome back to another episode of the 9 Point Day podcast. This is a mini episode, a 5 point day. Um, just like all the rest of them, I surveyed the previous guest on the show and had a topic and got their input and their thoughts and feelings on said topic. Um, Last episode was like advice for newcomers into the Highland Games, like stuff to help them get started, some onboarding stuff. This one is a little more geared towards guys and girls who've been at it for a little bit, they've competed in the Highland Games for a while. This is some thoughts for them. And this week it's going to be showmanship for the Highland Games. Showmanship, why is that important? Why is showmanship important for the Highland Games? I've talked with many professionals and ADs, and there's kind of like there's a push and pull here. Are we entertainers or are we athletes? Is our goal to perform at our best, or is our goal to perform for the crowd? They go hand in hand to a point. There is some things you can push and pull to lean more towards the other, and what is actually more beneficial for the games. The bottom line is, being a showman is very important for the games. We are entertainers. And is entertaining just being a good athlete and just throwing your best and like hitting your PRs and stuff like that? Is that what being a showman is? Or is it hamming it up on the field, dancing around, doing backflips, things like that? What is it? What's the line? What do you think it is? And I think it's definitely both, right? But I think we all can do a better part of being a bit more of that showman, kind of showboaty side of it. Mostly because if you compare our sport to traditional, like other sports, let's use like football, for instance. Most of the players on the field don't do anything besides play the sport. They're on the line, they do the thing, and then that they do football. Every now and again, you get a touchdown, you do a touchdown dance with your boys, or you do a Lambo leap, you jump out into the crowd, and but most of the guys on the field, most of the guys who play football, don't do any of that. They just play the game, right? But the sport is well established. They have an audience who will watch everything they do, right? It is. We don't have to keep them entertained because they're entertained by the subject itself. Highland Games is a little bit different, where we don't have the history of viewership that they do, so we have to do things to fluff it up a bit, and not in a weird way, not but in a very tasteful kind of way. You have to find ways to get the crowd involved, because of what we're doing. We're so intimate. We are just a ribbon rope away from the audience. Whether you're professional or amateur, we are right there. So yeah, you mind your P's and Q's and you try to engage them and things like that to get them involved into what we're doing, make them part of the show, because that's really what it is. It's a show. We are showing what we're doing. So let's kind of go through what the previous guest had to say. So let's start with Danny Autry. He's top of the list. He says, "Look like you're having fun." That is hugely important. That you're not out there just taking yourself too serious. It is serious because we are competing in a sport, and that's kind of that balancing act of, are we having fun or are we competing? Because like we talked about last week, there's that second kind of fun, right? There's the fun that takes longer to get to, and that's at the end of the day. That's at the end of the season. We're like, okay, we did all the things we're going to do. I had fun. Or there's that first kind of fun where I'm having fun in the moment, joshing around with my friends and things like that. And the crowd feels that. The crowd feels you having fun. They see it and they recognize it, and that makes them have fun, right? Um, he also goes in to say that like not everyone can pull off that like pro wrestler persona. Um, and I mean, we've there's a very interesting crossover between Highland Games and fans of professional wrestling. Um, and we talked about it on the episode with Tom Soroka because he's a big wrestling guy, and I think there's a big crossover with that, and we've even cut promos as wrestlers, and um, done similar moves on the field that like wrestlers would do in order to just get a rise out of the crowd. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has that in their personality, and that'll kind of come into play later when I go down the list. Not everyone has that personality to be that guy or that girl. Um, but one thing he goes into talking about as well is hang out on the fence and make the crowd feel included. And that's a topic that's what he keeps coming back is hang out with the crowd. There are games, most games, um, that most games you don't have shaggers. For those of you who aren't aware, who are new to the games, shagging is the act of bringing the implement back, right? Someone throws it, measure, mark it, right? And then someone brings it back. Most games do not have people to do that for you. It's the athletes doing it for themselves, and they go in an order, right? Um, and so when you do that, what happens is there's a person in the box throwing, there's a person on deck, and there's a person bringing the implement back, right? That's who us, all the people and the judge who are hanging out by the fence, by the crowd. Everyone else, the other 10 athletes or however many athletes are out on the field waiting for their turn to mark and then shag. I don't think that is the best way to do it, um, purely from an entertainment standpoint. And if you're looking at what is the entertainment value that we're bringing, we have a lot to say about the Highland Games. Pretty much every one of us are chatty Cathys. That's like an affliction of a strength athlete. We will talk. We want someone to ask us about what we're doing because we will tell them, right? You can't do that if the entire group is out on the field. So most games, again, don't have shaggers. The order that should be done. This is my opinion. Comment below and tell me how I'm wrong here. But I think it should be throw, mark, shag. There should only be two people out in the field at any given time. It's a person marking and it's a person bringing the implement back. And you, like the minute you throw, you walk out there and measure. And then the next person throws, now you're taking the implement back. It's very simple. And that way, everyone is on the fence talking to the crowd or watching, but we are near. We are available for questions. We are ready to explain what we're doing or um, just give any, because I've got a lot of questions that aren't even Highland Games related from audience, from the crowd, but I'm standing right there to answer them, right? So I think that's huge. Just being near them to be available for them, and that draws them in. Just like you having fun draws them into you. Um, so, but again, some people there's a downside to that, to everyone being up next to the fence, right? One of those downsides is most of the people who are throwing um, aren't professional wrestlers. We don't have that persona. We are very mild mannered people. There's a lot of us who are like that. I float in between here and there. I'm not super loud, but I can't be. Uh, but most of the guys will be standing there watching the person throwing. We're engaged in what we're doing. We're seeing how they're doing because we're competing, because we're athletes. This is a competition. It's not just a show. This isn't Broadway. So like we are actively doing something. We're competing against someone. So we're watching what they're doing. Like, okay, that's a good throw. I got to do better than them on the next one. And that's perfectly reasonable. The downside is our backs are to the crowd, and we are in a big line blocking out their view because we stand right where we get the best view, and where we get the best view is where they get the best view. So there is like a give and take there that we don't have to be right up on the trig watching everything that happens. We seen throws. Okay, there's kind of like a mentality that I think could shift and should shift, and that's we've seen the guys we're competing against, the girls we're competing against, we've seen them throw numerous times. We don't need to see it again. We know what we need to do to win. And so you don't have to be right up on it. You don't have to block the crowd out. Just be cognizant of what's around you and the people who paid to be there, be part of the festival, be part of be part of the spectators. They get first view, right? Just kind of be mindful of that. Then we go down the list. We go to Emily Adams. Again, it's engage the crowd and don't be a wallflower, which is that's a fun expression, wallflower, right? There's that balance there, right? You don't have to be hooting and hollering, doing backflips, and being a showman, a big showman, like a big loud person, but like don't hide. It doesn't help to hide away. That's not going to help. That's not going to help the cause. It's not going to help the entertainment. That's entertainment. It's going to help grow the sport, right? So then we go to Brother Josh of the No Fame Games, and like he's kind of like directing a lot of what he's talking about here to the pros, right? And I think it's applicable to all levels, right? Like amateurs and things like that. I think this is perfectly reasonable for them. It's look like you know what you're doing, and we've talked about that. No one wants to see some guy out there who's acting like it's his first day. Be professional. And this kind of goes to my mindset, even as an amateur, was you see what the professionals do. We've seen them. There's videos out there. You've seen them in person throwing. Behave like they behave because they are the best at it. We've decided, or someone has decided, even maybe it's just themselves, that they are the best at what they're doing, whether it be throwing just purely athletics or being an entertainer. They are the best at it. Do what they do. Mimic them. And he says, like, know who you are, right? Find your brand, your style, your vibe, even, and steer into that. That is going to be that's going to showcase who you are, right? And that's what the crowd wants to see. We're all very much different. We're all individuals. Very much like the common denominator here is that we're bros, we're nerds, and we compete in the Highland Games. That's like the common denominator. Other than that, we have different styles. Like people like, I mean, some guys like wear belts when they throw, right, for certain events, and some guys who on those belts, like they got their little flair. They're like a TGI Fridays waitress. They have all kinds of crap on there, and that's very cool. Like that's their style. That fits like the brand of who they are. And I think a lot of people, even just in general life, it's not it kind of comes off as like a little bit like Instagram influencer type, but like having your own personal brand. I think that's good. It's good to know who you are, just in general, and it even helps. It helps more so on the field when you're trying to be a spectacle. Know who you are. And then he also goes into like your energy. That goes a long way. Being energetic as you can be. It's a 9-10 hour day sometimes. I get that. You can't be on all the time, but be on more than most. Like we're here to be somebody and do something. We're not here to take naps, right? Okay, like be energetic as you can. Like that helps. I think that again, this goes across to all levels of the sport. Just find who you are and be energetic about it. Be unapologetic of like, I am this type of person, and the crowd's going to feel that, and the crowd's going to like they're going to steer towards the people that like fit with them, and like, and if they like you well enough, they're going to follow the group the rest of the day and cheer you on, and that's what we want. We want butts in seats, and we want them to enjoy us and talk about us in the future. There are a few games in the country that like develop followings. I know there's a couple in Canada that like they develop like a following of the pros that come through there. Like just the audience people like are hitting them up on Instagram and be like, oh, are you coming back this year? Celtic is another one that They have developed dedicated fans because the energy gets so high, and you're so close to the athletes and they get to know you. These are all hugely important things. And that's coming from like the pro side of it, but that also is applicable to amateurs as well. Um, let's go down to Haley Gow. Let's see what Haley has to say. Haley says, like, at the end of the day, we are entertainment. Um, Not wrong. We are the entertainment for this festival. Um, it's that give and take. We're athletes competing in competition, but also entertaining. So we got to find a balance there. But just be aware that whether or not you treat it as you are an athlete competing in competition, you're still the entertainment for the festival. That's a thing. Um, and she says, like, this kind of goes into a little bit of like the brand we were talking about earlier, like your socks, your patches, you yelling and chanting with the crowd. Like, these are all part of like your branding. Like, this is what people see as you when you show up on the field and you're competing. Yelling goes a long way. What's funny too about yelling is, like, I've talked with a lot of people about showmanship, and they say, like, yeah, being a yeller is good. Everyone likes, like, in the crowd, they like when they hear us scream. Uh, what's funny, because, like, I don't think any of us do it intentionally, which is, but what's funny is, like, they've done studies. I can't remember who or what university or whatever did these studies, but, like, making noise, like in the weight room or throwing or like trying to produce power, yelling helps for whatever reason. I don't know, but it does, and it works to keep the crowd like entertained, because it's not so quiet, it's not so dim. We're loud, we're big, we're doing big energetic things. um and she also, and this is a good point that she says, like, she says athletes that are well loved put on a show with athleticism and flair. And this goes back to what Josh was talking about, is like having your vibe, having your style. If you look the part and you are good at what you're doing, uh, that shows up. And, like, even a novice spectator, someone who's never been in the games before, recognizes that, like, this is the guy, this is the girl, like, she's got it figured out, like, she's crushing it, that's my person. And I think we miss a lot of that as athletes, that, like, we can build fans. We can build fans real easy if if we get a better understanding of who we are and what we bring to the table, and be consistent with it. That's huge. Being consistent across the season, and that ads, athletic directors, love that, like, you can put on a show every time and be counted on to do that, because they want us to have fun. The ads want us to do a good job and compete and set PR, stuff like that. What's even better is if someone from the crowd goes up to the boss, the AD, and says, "Hey, these three people are crushing. Like, they're keeping us entertained. They're doing all this," and, like, that's what they want to see. Because from a festival point of view, when festivals have their board meetings and stuff like that, and they're looking at whether or not they should float the money for a Highland Games this year, because it's always, people don't understand this. It's a lot of times it's up in the air whether or not a festival will return with the games attached to it. We've seen it go away before. The festival's still there, but the games are not. So it's our part. It's part of our job as athletes to ensure that we get to come back next year and compete. That we've done everything we can to do that. And so sometimes it's more than just throwing that we got to put out there. And the last one from John Oden, he says, "Be authentic to who you are." Um, that is huge. Being authentic, right? Find out who you are and use it to your advantage. Show who you are. People want to see that. Like, you may think you're not that interesting, but you'd be wrong. Strangers find that what we're doing is quite rare, quite interesting, and they want to talk to us about it. And he says, like, to be yourself with the audience and introduce yourself to the audience. Like in between events, instead of running right over, like, oh, we're going to do wild next, and just scurry on over there to get ready for your warm ups. Take some time. If you see someone hanging around the fence, go out of your way to talk to them. You might meet new people, and like that's good. Um, and always be willing to share your knowledge about the events and about the Highland Games. Because again, most people who see Highland Games have never seen it before. They're like, I think that's a good general rule, is that most people have never seen it and they're seeing it for the first time. And you want to educate them. And if you do a good job, they might try doing it themselves, or they might just become a fan of it, and that's just as good. Um, but I think to sum all this up, it's that you don't have to be a professional wrestler. You don't have to be super loud, super vocal about everything you do on the field. But I think everyone can do a better job of just being more showboaty, and that's like kind of like an unpopular word, like showboatiness. It might not even be a word, but like I've talked to a lot of guys over the years, and they're like, it's always late season, and this conversation will come up, like, oh yeah, I think next year, like, I'm gonna work on my showmanship. Like I'm gonna try to be more of an entertainer, and I think we always have this great idea, and I think we should all try to just make an effort to put a little bit more of it into practice. Um, it's only going to help us. It's only going to help the sport grow, and it's going to help the crowd be entertained, which is going to help ADs pitch it to festivals that, like, this is what we're capable of doing. This is, like, people are coming back year after year to see us do these things. It's all very much important. Yeah, so find your flair. Learn dad jokes. That's a fun thing that Tom Soroka has brought up in the past, is that everyone likes a good dad joke, whether they say it or not. But it's like that's an easy thing to do, an easy thing to do to, like, entertain people, right? Find little things that you can do. All that will help. But on that note of growing the sport, please comment below. What are some ideas, things you see on the field that you think you could do better at? Some showmanship things that you do, whether it be like dad jokes, or like you dye your hair purple every time you come out to the field, or something like that. Like, let me know down in the comments about your experience with that. Please like, comment, subscribe, do the whole thing. YouTube, Spotify, I appreciate it all. When you guys like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, all those things help the podcast grow, which is going to help get more eyes on the podcast, on the Highland Games as a whole. That's what we want, right? We want to see more people in it. I mentioned before, every big idea for the Highland Games falls a little flat due to the population. We don't have 10,000 extra people competing in this to do the big things, the really, really big things that are definitely coming. So please do that. That's all I got for this one, guys. Another short one. We'll be back to regularly scheduled episodes here before too long. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, throw far. God bless.